The Institute of War Losses will appoint a group of scientists to estimate the losses Poland suffered as a result of the direct aggression, decades of occupation, and exploitation of the Polish state by the Soviet Union. The mechanism of Sovietization was introduced. It included, of course, the depolonization of these territories and also a spiral of collective repression against Polish citizens, primarily those with strong ties to the Polish state. It is also worth saying that, for example, a city like Głogów was completely destroyed, almost 90% of it. Also, those post-German areas that were later assigned to Poland, such as Wrocław, they too were looted and plundered. As a result of the USSR's aggression against Poland, our country suffered not only territorial, but also material losses, buildings, elements of industrial infrastructure, and cultural assets. Poland has filed 27 restitution claims in this case to Russia. The last 7 requests were made by Deputy Prime Minister Piotr Gliński back in the fall of last year. We have detected Polish works of art in the Pushkin Museum in Moscow. Under international law, Russia should return them. Unfortunately, all of our requests remain unanswered by the Russian side. Last September, the Foreign Ministry published a report on the war losses Poland suffered as a consequence of warfare and the crimes of the Third Reich. It was estimated that Poland should receive 6,200 billion zloty. According to experts, the preparation of a new report on Russian aggression will be much more difficult. The Germans meticulously documented their war gains, therefore estimating losses was relatively simple. It is known what was lost and where. It was also cataloged in some way. The Germans are orderly. However, in the USSR, it all happened on a catch-all basis. What could be stolen was stolen. What lay replanted from the Polish western lands, which are so-called today, could be dismantled was dismantled. This was not archived here in any way. All recent Russian historiography, all Russian propaganda is based on the so-called patriotic war, in which Russia defeated the great aggressor Hitler. They forget to say that for 2 years they were co-aggressors, and hand in hand with Hitler they attacked and murdered. And in fact, without their agreement with Hitler, there would have been no war. So I doubt they want to change their minds until Russia is de-imperialized. And until it is, it will invade other countries. In response to Polish announcements, Russians react in the only way they know and totally reverse the narrative. Chairman of the Russian Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, is demanding $750 billion in reparations from Poland for liberating Poland from fascist occupation. Poland betrayed historical memory. Soviet soldiers paid a high price for liberating the country from fascist occupation. 1/3 of Poland's current land, areas with developed infrastructure, industrial enterprises, and rich in natural resources, became part of Poland after World War II, only thanks to our state. According to today's calculations, Poland received $750 billion from the USSR for the reconstruction and development of the country. More than 800 industrial, energy, and transport facilities were to be built with this money. Poland as a state exists only thanks to our country. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called Russia's demand absurd. Not only is it absurd for Russia to demand any sanctions here, but it is a typical, earlier I would say Soviet, today we can say it is a typical Russian propaganda ploy. According to experts, anyone who describes the entry of the Red Army as the liberation of Polish lands is falsifying history. In 1944, the third period of deportation of Poles and Polish citizens to gulags began. It is estimated that more than 80,000 people ended up in Soviet gulags and NKVD camps. Poland was not liberated by the Red Army. Poland was actually conquered, and we were occupied for the next decades, at least until 1989. And let me just remind you that the last Russian troops left our country on September 17, 1993. After the end of World War II, as a result of the Yalta agreements, the borders of Poland were shifted westward. At the expense of the USSR, Poland lost 175,000 square kilometers, almost half of its pre-war territory.